In our journey of faith, we often find ourselves questioning the relationships around us. How do we know when God is telling us to let go of someone? Relationships, whether with family, friends, or partners, can be a source of joy, growth, and connection, but they can also lead us astray if they aren't aligned with God's plan for us. It's not always easy to discern when it's time to step away, but there are signs that God might be guiding us to release certain relationships for our own well-being and spiritual growth. Today, we'll explore 3 powerful signs that may indicate it's time to give up on someone, using both scripture and insights from C.S. Lewis to guide our hearts. Let's dive into this important journey. Before diving into the signs that God might be telling us to let go of someone, it's important to first understand the foundation of relationships from a biblical perspective. Relationships are central to the human experience, and they are woven deeply into the fabric of God's design for us. From the very beginning, God intended for us to be in relationship, not just with Him, but also with others. In the book of Genesis, when God created man, He recognized that it was not good for man to be alone. In Genesis 2 verse 18, God says, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." This was the creation of the first human relationship, the relationship between Adam and Eve. It was a relationship that was meant to complement and support one another, both physically and spiritually. This foundational truth about relationships is vital to understanding their purpose. God's design for relationships is not just about companionship, but about the broader picture of community and connection. When we reflect on how God placed Adam and Eve together, we see that it wasn't just for personal fulfillment or companionship, but for partnership in His larger purposes. The bond between them was meant to be an example of unity, love, and mutual care that mirrors the relationship between God and His people. Throughout the Bible, we are reminded of the importance of relationships and God's desire for us to experience love and community. Proverbs 27 verse 17 tells us, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This illustrates how relationships are meant to refine us, sharpen our character, and bring us closer to the heart of God. In healthy relationships, we challenge one another, build each other up, and encourage each other to grow in our faith. Jesus Himself provides a beautiful model for relationships. His life was marked by deep, meaningful relationships with His disciples, as well as with others, relationships that were centered on love, service, and sacrifice. Jesus demonstrated the kind of love that we are called to show in our relationships. He called us to love one another as He has loved us. John 13 verse 34, which is a sacrificial love that is focused on the well-being of others, even when it requires personal sacrifice. However, while relationships are a gift from God, they can also become complicated. Sometimes, relationships that once brought us closer to God and filled us with joy can turn toxic, unhealthy, or even burdensome. This is where it becomes important to reflect on whether a relationship is still aligned with God's plan for our lives. God has called us to love others, but He has also called us to protect our hearts and prioritize our relationship with Him above all else. In Matthew 22 verse 37, Jesus says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind." This commandment, which Jesus says is the greatest, sets the foundation for all other relationships. Our relationship with God must take precedence, and from that foundation, all other relationships should be built. In a healthy, God-ordained relationship, both parties will encourage each other in their walk with God, growing together in love, faith, and purpose. But if a relationship begins to take us away from God's purposes, pulling us toward unhealthy behaviors, or making it harder to stay focused on God's calling, then it's important to pause and evaluate the relationship. God's design for relationships is to help us grow, emotionally, spiritually, and personally. Relationships that align with God's will lead us to greater peace, fulfillment, and a deeper connection with Him. But when a relationship hinders our growth, distracts us from our relationship with God, or leads us into unhealthy patterns, we must carefully discern whether God is leading us to let go for our own well-being and spiritual growth. In this context, it's important to recognize that God's purpose for relationships is never about just keeping the peace or maintaining superficial connections. It's about bringing us closer to Him, enabling us to fulfill our God-given potential, and guiding us to become more like Christ in our love for others. Healthy relationships should be a source of support, encouragement, and spiritual sharpening. So as we explore the signs that God may be telling us to let go of someone, we do so with the understanding that God's ultimate desire for us is to have relationships that align with His will, that bring us closer to His heart, and that help us fulfill the unique purpose He has for our lives. Relationships are meant to be a blessing, not a burden, and it is in discerning God's will in these areas that we can find true peace and alignment with His perfect design. God's guidance in relationships is essential for our spiritual growth and emotional well-being. There are times when God leads us to release certain relationships, even when doing so can be difficult. Recognizing when a relationship is no longer healthy or aligned with God's purpose for your life is crucial. Here are 3 signs that God may be urging you to give up on someone for the sake of your spiritual, emotional, and personal well-being. The first sign that God may be telling you to give up on someone is when the relationship is leading you away from Him. As believers, our relationship with God must remain our top priority. When someone in your life consistently causes you to drift from your faith, questions your beliefs, or pressures you into sinful behavior, this is a clear sign that the relationship is not conducive to your spiritual well-being. If this person is leading you to neglect your relationship with God, avoid prayer, or disregard His teachings, it's an indication that God may be calling you to let go of this person. Relationships should draw us closer to God, not farther away. For instance, if you find yourself compromising your values or feeling disconnected from God because of this relationship, it's a sign that it may be time to walk away. This could manifest in various ways, such as being pressured into making decisions that go against your moral compass, or being encouraged to sin in ways that separate you from God's presence. God calls us to live a life that honors Him, and if someone is consistently pulling you in the opposite direction, it may be time to release the relationship and protect your spiritual life. Another important sign that God may be telling you to give up on someone is when the relationship becomes emotionally toxic. Toxic relationships can take a significant toll on our emotional health. These relationships often involve manipulation, criticism, and emotional abuse. They can cause deep harm, leaving you feeling drained, anxious, or inadequate. If someone in your life is constantly undermining your self-esteem, belittling your achievements, or manipulating your emotions for their benefit, this is a red flag that the relationship is not healthy. Emotionally toxic relationships can leave you feeling isolated, unsupported, and uncertain. For example, if someone in your life continually puts you down, belittles your ideas, or uses guilt as a way to control your actions, it can slowly erode your sense of self-worth. A relationship that leaves you feeling emotionally drained, anxious, or fearful is one that is harmful to your mental and emotional health. God desires for us to experience peace and joy in our relationships, and if someone is consistently causing harm to your well-being, it's a sign that you may need to let go and seek healing. Furthermore, toxic relationships often lack healthy conflict resolution. Instead of addressing issues in a constructive way, toxic individuals may resort to personal attacks, manipulation, or silent treatment. These unresolved issues breed resentment, anger, and bitterness. In these situations, the relationship can become a source of constant stress and emotional turmoil rather than a place of growth and mutual support. If you notice that your emotional health is deteriorating because of the toxicity of the relationship, it's important to recognize that God may be calling you to walk away to protect your peace. Finally, God may be prompting you to give up on someone when He is calling you to grow and move forward in life. But this relationship is holding you back. God has a purpose for each of us. And there are times when relationships, while once meaningful, can hinder our growth and progress. If a relationship is causing you to remain stagnant, preventing you from reaching your full potential, or even keeping you in unhealthy patterns, it may be time to reevaluate its place in your life. As we grow in our faith and walk with God, our goals, values, and priorities may shift. Relationships that once served us may no longer align with our spiritual or personal journey. If someone is discouraging you from pursuing God's calling, holding you back from personal growth, or keeping you in a place of complacency, it may be a sign that God is urging you to move on. Sometimes, God allows us to go through seasons of letting go because He is preparing us for something greater. God's call to grow and move forward often comes with the need to step out of old patterns, relationships, or environments that no longer serve His purpose in our lives. If you feel a sense of divine urging to take new steps in your faith, career, or personal life, but the relationship is preventing you from doing so, it might be a sign to let go. Holding on to someone who is not in alignment with where God is taking you can lead to frustration, stagnation, and a sense of being stuck in the past. In times of discernment, it's important to pray, reflect, and seek godly counsel to understand God's will in your life. Relationships that hold us back, emotionally drain us, or lead us away from God can be toxic and harmful, no matter how hard it may be to let go. Trust that God's plans for your life are greater than any relationship that pulls you away from His purpose. It's important to recognize that sometimes letting go of someone is part of God's bigger plan for you, one that leads to growth, healing, and alignment with His will. Letting go of a relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or familial, can be one of the most difficult things to do, especially when you've invested time, love, and emotional energy into it. However, sometimes God calls us to release relationships that no longer align with His plan for our lives, whether for our personal growth, spiritual well-being, or emotional health. In these times, it is crucial to let go with grace, both for our sake and for the sake of the other person involved. Letting go with grace doesn't mean holding on to resentment or bitterness. Instead, it's about finding peace, understanding, and forgiveness through the process. The first step in letting go with grace is acknowledging that God's will for our lives is always greater than any temporary relationship. Trusting in God's wisdom and timing is essential. Even when a relationship has been a significant part of your life, releasing it may be necessary for your own spiritual growth and healing. God knows what is best for us and can see the bigger picture, even when we cannot. Acknowledging this truth helps you trust Him during the process of letting go. Trust that He will provide the strength you need to move forward and will guide you to the relationships that are in alignment with His purpose for your life. It's important to approach letting go with a heart of forgiveness. Whether the relationship ended on good terms or not, carrying unforgiveness or bitterness can prevent healing and growth. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you approve of the other person's actions or that you forget the pain they caused. It simply means that you choose to release the weight of resentment and bitterness, which can keep you emotionally and spiritually bound to the past. Forgiving others is an essential part of God's healing process, and it frees us to move forward in peace. Letting go with grace also involves respecting the other person's journey. Just because a relationship no longer serves you doesn't mean the other person is wrong or that they're necessarily bad. People are on their own spiritual paths, and sometimes relationships end because we are meant to grow in different directions. Approaching the situation with respect means acknowledging that both individuals may need space to evolve without harboring anger or resentment toward the other person. This allows both you and the other person to move forward in a way that honors each other, even if the relationship no longer serves its original purpose. In addition to forgiveness, prayer plays a crucial role in letting go with grace. Prayer is a powerful tool that helps you surrender your emotions, hurts, and desires to God. When letting go of a relationship, it's important to ask God for the strength to heal and for guidance in moving forward. Prayer helps you to release the emotional attachments you may have developed and enables you to find peace in God's will. It's also important to pray for the other person involved, asking God to bless them, heal them, and lead them in their own journey. Another aspect of letting go with grace is focusing on your own healing. When you let go of a relationship, it's essential to take the time to care for your emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Healing requires self-compassion and understanding that it's okay to grieve the loss of the relationship. Don't rush through the healing process or suppress your emotions. Allow yourself to feel the pain, disappointment, or sadness, but also seek to heal by focusing on your own well-being. This may involve seeking support from trusted friends, family, or counselor, or engaging in activities that nurture your soul and help you reconnect with God. Letting go with grace also means setting healthy boundaries. In some cases, relationships may end but require maintaining some form of interaction due to family, work, or other reasons. In these cases, setting clear, healthy boundaries is crucial to ensure that the relationship doesn't become toxic again. Boundaries protect your emotional and spiritual well-being while still allowing for respectful and peaceful interactions. When you set boundaries, you are honoring both yourself and the other person, as you are choosing to protect your heart while still showing grace and respect. It's also important to acknowledge that letting go may bring some feelings of loss and loneliness, especially if the relationship has been a significant part of your life. However, God has a way of filling the void left by a relationship. His love is constant, and He will never leave you or forsake you. As you let go of one relationship, trust that God will bring new connections into your life that are in alignment with His purpose for you. He may bring new friendships, new opportunities, or even a new season of personal growth and transformation. Through the process of letting go, remember that grace isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing to release the past with a heart that is open to healing, growth, and new opportunities. It may not be easy, but with God's help, you can navigate the emotional complexities of letting go with dignity and peace. Lastly, let go with the understanding that God's plan for your life is far greater than the temporary relationships you may leave behind. Trust that He is guiding you towards a future that aligns with His will, one that brings you closer to Him, fulfills your purpose, and leads to deeper, more meaningful relationships. Letting go with grace is a testament to your trust in God's sovereignty and your willingness to surrender your life to His perfect will. Embracing God's peace is the culmination of understanding His will for our lives, trusting in His timing, and surrendering ourselves to His guidance. Throughout the journey of relationships, challenges, and personal growth, God's peace is a constant source of comfort and strength. In the midst of pain, change, or uncertainty, God offers us a peace that transcends human understanding, a peace that allows us to let go, forgive, heal, and move forward with grace and hope. The first step in embracing God's peace is cultivating trust in Him. Trusting in God's plan means understanding that He is always in control, even when we cannot see the full picture. His ways are higher than our ways, and His understanding far exceeds our own. When we fully surrender our lives to Him, we open ourselves up to His peace that guards our hearts and minds. Trusting in God's sovereignty helps us remain calm in the face of life's storms, knowing that He is working all things together for our good. God's peace is not dependent on circumstances or external factors. It's an inner peace that comes from knowing that He is with us, no matter what we face. Jesus Himself promises peace to those who follow Him. In John 14, verse 27, He says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." This peace is not fleeting or temporary. It's everlasting and unwavering. It is not based on the world's definition of peace, free from conflict or difficulty, but a deep, inner peace that remains even in trials. When we embrace God's peace, we acknowledge that it is through His strength that we can face difficult emotions, letting go of past relationships, and navigating the uncertainties of life. The peace of God enables us to forgive, not out of our own ability, but because He empowers us to do so. Forgiveness, as a result, becomes a natural extension of the peace He provides. It's through His peace that we are able to heal, release past hurts, and open ourselves up to new opportunities for personal growth and deeper relationships. Another aspect of embracing God's peace is learning to be still in His presence. In Psalm 46 verse 10, God calls us to be still and know that I am God. This stillness is not merely a physical rest, but a deep spiritual pause, a moment of quietness in which we surrender our anxiety, fear, and frustration to God. In those moments of stillness, we are reminded of God's goodness, His faithfulness, and His unchanging love. It is in this stillness that we experience the depth of His peace, allowing our hearts to align with His will. As we embrace God's peace, we must also cultivate a heart of gratitude. Peace grows in an atmosphere of thankfulness. When we focus on the blessings God has given us, rather than the things we lack or the challenges we face, our hearts are filled with contentment and peace. Gratitude shifts our focus from what is wrong to what is right, from what we have lost to what we still have. It is through gratitude that we recognize the ways God has been faithful in the past, and we trust that He will continue to provide, guide, and protect us in the future. Another key to embracing God's peace is surrendering control. We often seek to control aspects of our lives, especially relationships, circumstances, or outcomes. However, when we hold on to control, we hinder God's work in our lives. Embracing His peace involves releasing our need for control and trusting that He will lead us in the best direction. When we surrender to Him, we free ourselves from the burden of worry and anxiety, knowing that He will provide for our needs and guide us toward what is best. Lastly, embracing God's peace means living with the hope that our future is in His hands. Even if we face difficult seasons, setbacks, or unanswered prayers, God's peace assures us that He is working in our lives. The peace of God allows us to look forward with hope, knowing that His plans for us are good and that He is always at work behind the scenes. We may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can trust that God is faithful and that He has a plan for our lives. In the end, embracing God's peace is a daily choice, a choice to trust in Him, to let go of control, to forgive, to be still, and to live in gratitude. It's a peace that will sustain us through life's challenges, guide us through difficult decisions, and provide comfort in times of sorrow. By choosing to embrace His peace, we invite God to transform our hearts, renew our minds, and lead us on a path of healing, growth, and fulfillment. In moments of uncertainty, when we feel lost or overwhelmed, God's peace is there to carry us through. It is a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that will guard our hearts and minds, and a peace that will never leave us. As we embrace God's peace, we allow Him to lead us into a future filled with hope, joy, and the assurance that He is with us every step of the way.